Okay, the countdown is not done, Cherian, but I cannot hold the anticipation. It's too exciting. Welcome, Cherian.
That's
Well, this
awesome.
is obviously live because I kind of messed up the beginning. But to those who are joining, we're here with Cherian Koshy. The countdown is not done, a true, I would say, a unicorn in the sense that there are not so many technologists or people who are very savvy with technology who are also practicing fundraisers. So for those who don't know about him, please follow him on LinkedIn and elsewhere. Cherian, would you like to share a little bit about your career so far?
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, thanks for building this community, for continuing to show up. I've been following this community for a really long time, and I guess like everybody else, well, most people, I became an accidental fundraiser almost 25 years ago, and really had the opportunity to get great mentors and access to professional development, just learned from other people. I so appreciate the compliment of calling me a technologist, but I don't know that I would own that label, just because most of what I've learned is in dabbling and watching YouTube videos and trying to figure out stuff. So I work full time as a fundraiser, so that's my job. I lead the fundraising team at Merit America, which is a workforce nonprofit, and I love doing that, and happen to develop some software over the course of the pandemic, and just love being able to talk about technology and tools, and in particular now about AI. So thanks for having me.
Amazing. So, well, okay, fine. You're lots of humility, but I have to say I've always been impressed by what you've shared, particularly around technology. Cherian, do you think that AI is a game changer, and all these tools that are happening now? Is it how much of how much fluff is it, and how much is really something fundamentally different for fundraisers?
Yeah, I mean, I go back to that old quote that anything that's sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the important thing to remember for everyone listening is that AI is not new. It happens to be much more accessible, and that's what I want to definitely talk about as part of our conversation today. But don't forget that Gary Kasparov lost to a computer, and that Ken Jennings, one of my personal heroes, and Brad Rutter lost to a computer on Jeopardy, right? So, and this was decades ago. So these are not really new things. And how technology continues to evolve, continues to be ever present, right? Like we all have a phone probably nearby, and I can say, "Hey Google," or "Hey Siri," and everybody's phone goes off, and we're interacting with these devices through our voice, right? I shared on a webinar a few weeks back that Google Photos knows the difference between each one of my kids. It knows who my dog is. It knows who my friends are. Like there's every photo that I have of Barbara O'Reilly is tagged in Google Photos. I mean, this is amazing technology that we have at our disposal, and it's not altogether new. So is it a game changer? I would say it continues to change the game and elevate the way in which we work, for sure.
Okay, that's amazing. So it feels a little bit like, during COVID, when we knew that the infection rates would climb and would explode at some point because it was exponential, but it just right now, at the moment, it seems so slow that you almost questioned it, right? And it seems like we've been living in that pre-explosion world, and suddenly now it's in our face.
Yeah.
But like what you said, right? It's been prevalent for, I don't know, decades maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we just AI has boiled the frog, if you will, right? Like it's just suddenly we're shocked by the things that it can do, and where GPT-4 is unbelievable, actually.
Well, we'll have ChatGPT compose a requiem for a frog. Maybe even live. Maybe you'll show that to us.
Absolutely.
So have you been using AI tools in your fundraising practice, or as when you're maybe as management or front facing?
Totally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very open about it. Like a lot of people on our team are very open about it. So one of our CEOs said, how can we summarize this, what we're talking about, to highlight what our employers do? And I just put the text into a summarizer and said, this is what GPT-4 says. And it was lovely. Like, it was perfect.
Oh,
I
crazy.
I mentioned to my boss that I didn't use any AI tools for the interview, for the like application or anything like that, but I did do it for the thank you notes to the people that I interviewed with, because I didn't want them to be the same. And
Mhm.
honestly, that's something I face a lot as a fundraiser. Is I feel like there are tons of templates out there, right? You can Google templates for thank you notes or fundraising appeals, but then
Okay.
what do you do the second time? Right? Like, what do you do the third time? And you
Yeah.
can't use the same template because the wording would be the same. And I feel that way about thank you notes, even to, um, to people in my life, regardless of fundraising. I don't want it to
Mhm.
sound exactly the same or use the same structure. So how do I come up with something different? And I'm not very creative, honestly. Like, it would take me 20 minutes to sit there and say, all right, how do I, what, dear Lewis, like, like, it would just
Yeah.
take forever.
How many times can you spin something?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've even started experimenting, copying and pasting chunks from the CRM, and then asking to write that thank you note. But you've prepared, a list of tools. You've prepared to generously share some of your knowledge with us today. I'll just let you take it away.
Awesome.
Um,
Well, and sorry, Jim, that I activated your your Siri there. But that, I mean, how amazing is that? I was talking to someone about this Star Trek movie from the maybe late 80s, early 90s, where Scotty, they travel back in time and he picks up the Apple IIe mouse and says, computer, computer, and everybody was just shocked at this type of thing. But in reality, the likelihood that's so standard, like we take that for granted,
yeah.
which is fantastic. So, all right, I'm going to show you. I'm sure everybody knows ChatGPT by now. So this interface is what's made everything so much more popular and accessible. I don't know that this will really be free for much longer, but as you know, you can. The biggest challenge with the Chat GPT tool, from my perspective, is whether it's actually accessible, whether you can go in and type a message. But
Mhm.
so if you do something like write a fundraising appeal for a nonprofit that helps people get furniture for their homes. I don't know. I'm just making something up. So it starts producing this, and just as a refresher, the OpenAI project takes publicly available information from websites, from books, from articles that have been written, puts all of that together in a database, and then it queries that database to then say, how can we produce new content from that? So it's not just uh, searching and saying, here's the text that's there. It's actually pulling together some content. That's brand new. So if we hit regenerate response, or if we do this again with the exact same prompt, and there are multiple organizations in the audience right now who get furniture for people's homes, every single iteration of this will be different. It won't be the same. So as I was talking about before, with a template that you do for a thank you note, and I mean, I'll be totally honest, I've told Tom this before. I've taken the Tom Ahern letter for fundraising appeal and rewritten it for most organizations that I've worked with. But again, the second version of that, you got to do something different. So then you find, like, okay, what does Gail Perry say? What is this, whoever else that you're looking for online, right? So the
Mhm.
benefit of this is that you can have something different, but the challenging part is you can't control what's called like the temperature of how it responds to stuff. And then there are actually jobs out there right now for building out these prompts, right? So right now it's just a sentence, and that's really straightforward. And if this is helpful to you, by all means, use this. It's not bad at all. But I think the thing to remember is that it's a first draft, right? It's a tool that gets you something to work from so that you can add in your information about your organization, make it more authentic, follow the best practices of all the amazing copywriters that are out there. But like I said, my struggle was I'm sitting looking at a blank screen saying, where do I start? Dear Lewis, right? And coming up with this first line as we enter our spring season would take me 10 minutes. But now I can say, well, oh, it is spring, so this is nice, but I don't know if this is how I would start this. So that's chat, and I'm sure you've all seen that. So when I built out the nonprofit operating system, what I was looking for is, can I make it even simpler for organizations like mine, like me, that was struggling? And so let's say we're you don't have to know that it's a nonprofit, and you just say help people get furniture for the first time.
And we're still seeing ChatGPT. I don't know if that's subjective.
Oh, sorry. Share this tab instead. There we go.
There we go.
So sorry, I'll come back. So
okay, and give us a little bit of context. You've driven right into this nonprofit operating system. This is an AI-enabled tool that you've created.
Yes. So I was in the pandemic working as a fundraiser, and we had lost staff, and we're doing more with fewer people. And I started hearing about the first version of OpenAI and said, can I build something that would actually help me? And I started sharing this with friends in the nonprofit sector, and they said, oh, yeah, this would be really helpful to me. And so I made it publicly available. And so what I was aiming to do was even make it more simpler for people who are working. So let me give you an example. I actually was working with an organization that's a community center, and their sewer broke. And so, and this is the actual example here, community center, and we'll just do something very simple here, sewer leak. And what happened was the sewer broke, and the community center flooded, and they needed to raise $40,000 that week to be able to pay the bill. And they said, can you help us? And they were willing to pay consulting fees and all of that, right? And this was that was very, very simple of a prompt that I put together. But this appeal got them what they needed so quickly. Like within 30 seconds here, we were able to build out a structure and then take that and edit it very quickly, so they didn't have to worry about building that out. And so the same is true if we go back here to, let me just go back to social media.
My goodness, you have everything.
Lots of different things, right? So basically, anytime someone says, hey, can you have it do this? I was like, sure. So one example of that was a press release and a performance improvement plan. I had a friend email me and say, hey, I write lots of press releases. Can you build one for press releases, and someone else for a performance improvement plan?
Oh my goodness.
But let me show you the one that I'm super excited about.
Okay.
Our team writes a bunch of grants, and one of the biggest challenges that we have is taking 1,000 words of text and making it into 100, or 100 words of text and making it into 1,000. And so what this does is it will take about a chunk of text that's actually more than 500. So let's take this for example. This I'll just grab the fundraising letter that we wrote. And I'm going to get rid of the sincerely. And let's say, for example, this was, let's actually make it shorter. And we'll say we want this to be 1,000 words. So you have a snippet on your website or somewhere about what your program is that you want to receive grant funding for. And what this will do is it will take that text and expand it to fill that volume. And the opposite is true as well with the text shortener. You could take a whole bunch of text and then fit it to like 100 words or something like that. And so what I love about this is it perfect? Absolutely not. But does it solve the problem of taking so much time to, figure out how to shrink it, how to expand it, all of this stuff? But I'm going to stop talking about this and give you some other examples besides text generation. While this is still thinking, and I'm going to share with you some other tools that I think are really exciting. So we'll come back to that in a second. But
Cherian, can I interrupt you with a question from
Carrie? Yeah, absolutely. Questions are great.
Carrie's asking, how do we balance privacy when we use ChatGPT?
That's a good question. So obviously what's important to remember is that OpenAI and Microsoft are investing significantly in ChatGPT for the purposes of improving things like Bing, and all of those tools that from Microsoft are going to be part of what's used in the future, right? So it's important to kind of remember that your information isn't necessarily private. It is private insofar as, well, they just had an issue with other people being able to access prompts. But I think it's something that's important to recognize. What is the privacy policy with the tools that you're using? Not just OpenAI, but any tool that uses OpenAI or another platform on top, build something on top of that. But at a general level, your information is going to be accessible by Microsoft. I don't think that's, from me, just saying from my perspective, for me, that's not a deal breaker, because if I were to search something in Bing, which is powered by AI right now, or type something into Google, they're using that to optimize right now. And if you're very privacy conscious or need privacy to be secured, there are lots of tools that you shouldn't use separate from ChatGPT or AI in general. So the place where I think we need to have a lot more discussion, a lot more conversation, is around personally identifiable information. So the example that you used about taking information from the CRM and putting that into ChatGPT or another AI tool is where things start to get a little nerve-wracking, right? Because that's could be private information of a donor, and where I like to stay kind of way far on this side, at least with tools that I build and tools that I use, is being very conscious of what information's on there. So that's just sort of my perspective. I should have been doing this while we were talking, but I wanted to show you kind of where the technology, hopefully that answers that question. But I sort of want to show you where this is coming from, or where this is going, sorry. The ability to use technology to build something like an app. Or even a website. So it looks like it might not be loading on the screen there, but
we're seeing form, the beginning of a form. What's the name of your business?
Yep. So I'm just typing in community foundation. I don't know. And again, this is not necessarily a product that I would recommend, but what I wanted to demonstrate to you is how quickly the technology is getting to a place where you can just type in some things. Like, I want a website that talks about my nonprofit, and within seconds, as we're talking here, it's already ready, right? And it says, and so I live in Dallas County, and we didn't give it very many any kind of prompt information. It says, local initiatives to support grants. Here's a section, a little testimonial, which was cool. Some services that were listed, a little map of the area. A contact us form, an about us, and these social media links don't work, of course, but how cool is it that within like a handful of seconds we're able to build that? Now imagine what that looks like for your website, to be able to, if you change your logo or you change the way you talk about something, to be able to easily and quickly update your website. I think the same thing is true when it comes to data. So this is a tool that I've been using with some clients. So this data is actually been anonymized. Let me see here. What's a good one? This one's been anonymized. So what's cool about this is the ability to like manipulate data by just talking to your data set. So say, for example, in your data set, I forgot that I actually saved this when I anonymized it, but it used to have salutations inside here. So it would say like Mr. and Mrs. And by just saying like delete Mr. and Mrs. from the column, it would do that. But let's say, for example, we wanted to make this into Drive instead of DR. Let's just put in change DR to Drive in address street 1. Now imagine how much time we spend in changing data, manipulating data, moving data from one place to another, analyzing data. there's so many tools out there, right, that do that. So you'll see here, it changed it to drive in just a couple of seconds. That's a very simple, sort of silly example, but I've seen places where, you've got Iowa and IA in the address state. And so you want to figure out, like, how can we clean that up and get that ready for a new CRM? Or you need to manipulate the data to get it into a new CRM, and you need to move, or, whatever. How much time do we spend, like, with expensive consultants or learning how to do that we don't have to necessarily do anymore? The other thing that I want to show you is this tool that I use all the time, like, quite literally. So now we're getting into tools that I actually use. I use Fireflies, and it joins every meeting that I'm in. And so the one example that I wanted to give you is, like, not a like private one, but it does the summary of the meeting for you. And it identifies, like, here are some of the action items, which totally helps me. Imagine not having to have someone take notes in a meeting, right? So whether it's a board meeting, an internal meeting, bless you. How cool is it? So, like, look at this, action items, right? And then you can actually ask the AI questions, like, what questions do you have about the meeting? What happened? Like, did Mindy say this? Did Jim have comments about that in the meeting? And so they give you some samples here, but you can. I actually am hiring for a few roles right now, and I have this that records all of those meetings, and then I ask it questions, like the interview questions of the data set. And the reason I do that is because I'm able to be fully present in the meeting and actually interact with the person, not having to be there, like, writing stuff down by paper and then transcribing it, or trying to type on this screen while I'm listening to someone and having that conversation with them. So those are some examples of tools that I use. Oops, one more. I forgot one. This one is a game changer. There's no, like, affiliate links or anything. Just feel free. I'm happy to share any of these with you. If you do any sort of video or audio, anything like that, go check out Descript.com. If they see this, hopefully you can, like, mute out this section. But if they charged me 10 times as much for this product, I would pay it in a heartbeat. It basically lets you could type stuff. So you could type stuff, and then it will produce video for you. You can edit stuff, the text, and it will change the video. Watch this video on the front page. It will blow your mind what it can do. And they haven't even done GPT-4 yet. It's unbelievable. So as you're listening to me right now for the last 20 minutes, you're like, oh, that guy, he has restarts his words, and there's ums and ahs and all of this. And my speech coach told me that for years. But the product will go in, and it will identify every place where I said whatever, and eliminate all of those, and does it within seconds. So if you're at all hesitant about being on video, that's a game-changing tool. I can't recommend it enough. And if they gave me an affiliate link, I would be blasting it out everywhere I could, because it's that amazing. So anyway,
that's so cool. And anybody who's worried about being on camera, I don't think you can be any worse than I am and ramble anymore. So
second.
Exactly. So really, the bar is pretty low. We invite all of you to be sharing your knowledge. LinkedIn is a great place to do that. Carrie has a good other question. She's asking about Accio. Does it integrate with ChatGPT, or is that a separate thing? Do you even realize, Carrie?
Yeah. So chat. So I'm not sure if Accio is built on OpenAI or not. They have their own data privacy rules, which I'm comfortable with. But they also, so the chat function is let me share my screen again, so that it's not directly ChatGPT, but it enables I'm sure, my guess is that it's chat enabled through the OpenAI, but, like, what's cool about it is you can ask it questions about your data set. There's another website called usechannel.com that I've used as well for this purpose, where you can like do data analytics. So what are the open rates for we're in roundup. What is the average gift size? And imagine like all of those analytics that you need to have someone who knows like SQL and whatever, right? All of those types of things can be done through this process. And so you'll see here, the average gift size is $33. And you can make it more complex. You can say, what is the average gift size by channel? What is the average gift size by whatever? And each one of those queries is just a possibility of whatever you can write in regular language, which used to be building out SQL, right? Building out these reports and whatnot. So later this week, you'll see a report come out from, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see more about this, but you'll see a report that we did on 30-some thousand emails. And what we were able to do is analyze email subject lines, pre-header text, and be able to see like what affects open rates, what affects click-through rates, some really cool things. And I did all of that in a weekend because of AI and machine learning tools, right? And I'm not some sort of well, I appreciate the comment. I'm not some sort of technologist. Imagine where we will be in months with everybody being able to have access to these types of things.
So that's the thing. It's moving at a very quick pace, right?
Yeah.
And John there has a congratulatory message for you. Thank you, John. Anybody else who has questions for Cherian, make use of him while you have him. It's a rare opportunity. Is anybody here using any other AI tools, or are you using ChatGPT or any of the big ones in novel ways? We'd love to hear about that. Dave is using the nonprofit operating system now. So
thank you, Dave.
There we go. So you're already making a difference, Cherian. I have a question for you, specifically about that spreadsheet tool.
Yes.
I understand that hallucination is something that happens with chat.
Yes.
I don't know every model in the world. Maybe some are more prone than others. And I saw that it said the average is approximately blah.
Yeah.
Do they take any extra steps to make sure it's more accurate in that spreadsheet tool? Because sometimes when you ask ChatGPT, it will just spit out a number it makes out of thin air.
Yeah. So with those types of tools that are built upon a specific data set, it's not going to hallucinate. Many of those tools have code built in that prevents hallucination. If you were to query ChatGPT on its own, much more hallucination, much more sort of inventing of things. So I've asked it to, do like expanding text or writing things like fundraising appeals or grant proposals and whatnot. And because it is two years behind in terms of that data set, but also it doesn't have a specific group of data to query, it will often invent some of that information, which is really I don't think it's scary unless you take AI tools in what I would say in a wrong-headed direction, which is we're going to let the robots decide what to do. But don't forget, like you might have a template for a fundraising appeal that has data in it, right? 20% of children under 5 are, have malnutrition or something like that. You would have to modify that data in the template as well, right? Like, so I think it's important to use these tools as a basis for confirming, making sure, especially when it comes to sort of generative AI for content, making sure that any like facts or figures or sources are valid. When it comes to data queries, I would check with the tool that you're using. I know, for example, Accio is using, which does have a free trial, by the way. And the free trial is really extensive. It allows you to do a lot. So with those types of tools, you want to understand, like, a general level, how are they using it? What are those risks around hallucinations or false data or something like that?
Yeah, how it's a fascinating world. Deborah was asking about exactly what you said. Are these free? The tools you shared, do they have a free tier right now?
Yeah, so a lot of them have a free tier. I would say I created a list of different tools. I don't know that. I think Fireflies is free for a certain number of minutes. I lovingly pay them because of how much I use it, and would be happy to do it. Descript, I don't think has a free tier, but it's like $30 a month, and like hopefully no one from Descript is listening. But I would pay more for that.
Again, stop doing this.
right. Yeah, exactly. ChatGPT is totally free, but like I said, there are people who are getting paid lots of money to figure out prompt engineering. And honestly, what I don't understand about that is why pay someone $300,000 to do prompt engineering when you could just build a tool to solve that for your specific use case. So that's the cool thing that's happening right now, is that you can build apps, you can build CRMs, you can build anything just by asking, like, build me a tool to do this, and it will do it. Like, we're working on a Slack integration right now that ChatGPT 4 built the code for, so people on our team can say, I met with this person, and it automatically creates a lead for them. It does a wealth screening for them in our Salesforce database, and it creates introductory copy for an email to outreach to them. And it's all, I mean, it's super slick how you can kind of stack these tools together with some automation and ultimately just save a bunch of time
and money, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the risks.
Yeah.
But also, if we're really honest, using spreadsheets, how many times have we done a filter and not filtered one part of the spreadsheet and have done the other and nailed that?
Totally.
How much? So Excel is risky too. Exactly. Excel is pretty dangerous.
And putting Excel into a different, like, I was talking to someone about this a week ago, where we're just not very cautious with our tech stack around where data goes. And so Excel can be clunky. It can be hard to query, figure out that data, but also at a certain volume, it's really hard to make sense of like what affected this thing. And I think the bigger challenge is that the solutions that are out there are so expensive, right? Like, Tableau is really expensive. Business analytics is really expensive. You need to know something in order to do that. And trust me, I don't. I look at Tableau and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is complicated, right? But what this has done is truly democratize some elements of data analytics, of understanding content, like being able to pour through volumes of data and being able to do that is really exciting. The other thing that I want to stress is that the content generation part, some people get worried about that. And if you are someone who loves to write content, you love the process of writing, you should do that. That's what you should do. That brings you joy. You should build that. You're creative. There are plenty of people, however, that I've talked to who English is not their first language. They don't feel like they're a strong writer. All kinds of reasons why a tool like this helps them save time and be able to edit something rather than force them to build something. And if they had to build social media content every day for a month, or email appeals and thank you letters and all of that, it actually does not get done. So the choice for them has often been, don't do it, or procrastinate and it's too late to get that stuff done, or use a tool like this, or spend a lot of money having other people do it. So I think the opportunity here to truly save time and energy makes a tremendous amount of difference, particularly to small and mid-sized nonprofits.
Yeah, I read somewhere, Cherian, that it's not that this is going to be table stakes now, it's going to be the floor.
Yeah.
So the basic is going to be a pretty decent thank you letter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's definitely going to be those people who can take it beyond that.
And that would be kind of the thing that I would reinforce to everyone listening is, if you are not thanking your donors, I think everyone knows that how important that is. It's just not enough time in the day to do it, and not enough time to do it quickly. But tools like this allow you to do it quickly and and very easily. So to your point about it being the floor, I think it is really just like, this is the expectation now around segmentation, around personalization, around rapid response times, is that you actually can do this, right? Because the tool can get you 90% of the way there, and then the last 10% is on you.
So really hard philosophical question. And our friends from Safe and Sound Somerset are really enthusiastic about your presentation today. So thank you.
Yeah.
But what does this mean for the skills that are going to be most valuable in fundraising?
Brilliant question. Yes.
Because maybe before, one of those skills was, you can write a mean appeal. What's going to happen going forward? What do you think?
So for those types of roles where someone is an amazing grant writer or an amazing copywriter, I think this accelerates the time spent in editing. Now, some people will choose not to use it entirely, and that's totally fine. But for some people, it's a question of how far in advance can I get that end of year appeal done? So with some of these tools, you could be doing it today and have it sit there and ready to go and to the printer so far in advance that you don't have to worry about it, and make sure that you're double checking things. Yeah, please.
You missed a step. You could send it to your board so that they can sweat over it for 6 months.
That's right. That's right. Not that that's good, that a recommended way of approaching it, but to have that time, the luxury of time, to have things built out in advance, not having to respond in the moment. Phil M. Jones says this a lot, which is the worst time to think about how to answer a question or how to say something is when you are saying it. And these tools enable you to kind of get all of that done, and then really to be able to test and iterate. So we can create 2 versions of a letter. We can create 2 versions of the social media post. We can do 2 versions of these things, or multiple versions, whatever the case may be, and do segmentation because it's faster out of the gate in terms of the ability to customize. But for those other sort of data analytics tools, I think there's an incredible opportunity to truly understand what our data is telling us and to build stories on top of that data. When it comes to how this will affect our jobs, the thing that I want to come back to is to say, I don't think AI is coming for our jobs. I have 100 copies of Stephen Shattuck's book, Robots Make Bad Fundraisers, which I'm sending out to subscribers of the Nonprofit Operating System. And the reason why Stephen's book is so powerful and relevant right now is because the AI will never be able to sit in front of someone, whether it's on screen like we're doing here, or in person or at an event, and be able to have those conversations. It won't be able to have authenticity. It won't be able to have empathy. It will not be able to build those relationships. But can it very quickly take the content of the meeting that we had, put it into some bullet points so that it can go into the CRM, so that if I move on from my role, everyone else can know exactly what happened in that conversation and know what the action items were. If I threw out my back this weekend lifting something, spring cleaning, and if for some reason I was not able to respond to a donor or something like that, someone on my team would be able to take that information and very quickly and easily be able to follow up on it. That's the power of these types of tools, is really like enabling a historical knowledge of the organization that is often lacking in every size organization. It doesn't matter if you're a gigantic organization or a small organization. We lose so much institutional knowledge when fundraisers turn over. Now we have the ability, or fundraisers or any other staff, I don't mean pick on fundraisers, but like we know that most, I think the most recent research is like a couple of years, right? But if we have that information, we can go back and listen to a conversation. We can see those notes. We can follow up, and we're not restarting the donor journey every time someone new is in the space. I think it's going to be tremendous for the sector.
Well, I hope you're inspiring people. There's some questions.
Yeah.
I want to share some thoughts with you, which are, I asked ChatGPT how to recover from a thrown back, and we want to encourage you to rest.
I appreciate
Go
that.
over-the-counter
That's
pain
so
relievers, practice ice and heat therapy, gentle stretching, maintaining a proper sport. Well, I mean, there's tons of suggestions
that's
here.
awesome. Have you
But
seen the
anyhow,
plugins?
I hope you recover quickly.
Have you seen the plugins?
I've heard about them. I haven't played with them yet.
I'm on the wait list for the plugin, and so you can like query Instacart to get recipes and then have it load up the groceries into your cart. Like,
finally, I've been waiting for that for years. I mean, we don't use Instacart at home, but
oh my gosh, that's a game changer. Like keto, vegan, like all this. It's super exciting.
okay, so some people are getting blurry-eyed here with
Sure.
the futurism type thing, and and there's this camp that's saying, "Oh, the whole world is going to change." I find that fundraisers are typically very grounded in that sense, and we've gone through every technological thing and kind of skeptical.
Yeah.
Do you think this is really so much of a game changer, more of an enabler?
Yeah.
I know I asked a little bit of the same question at the beginning.
No, I think so. To circle back to what we said in the beginning, there are some technologies out there that are nice to have but not need to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
That don't necessarily need to affect your life. So the example of that for me is that most organizations that I work with don't need to have a full-on cryptocurrency strategy. They need to know how to accept a cryptocurrency gift if that were to happen, if a donor wanted to do that. But do I need to be an expert in blockchain? Probably not. Or Web3?
Mm-hmm.
Not really, not yet. But remember that AI has been in effect for decades,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's already affecting the things that you use every single day, not just your phones, but every sort of search, how your website shows up for donors who are doing research about your cause. How social media posts get lifted in the algorithm to potentially get some form of organic reach. AI is absolutely, unequivocally affecting everything in your professional and personal life already. So you don't have a choice about whether to have AI affecting something that you're doing with your donors. And then these tools are going to become part and parcel with tools that you use every day. So Microsoft is embedding it in search. Microsoft's embedding it in
Office.
In Office and Word and Excel and those types of things. So and there's a little Excel bot thing in the nonprofit operating system because I kept forgetting the formulas for stuff like year-over-year change. I can't tell you how many times that's in my Google history, right? Because I keep forgetting the formula, and now you can just type it in, and someday it'll be in Excel, and you just type in year-over-year change, column A, column B, and done, right? So I think the reality is that this will impact all the things that we do in some way. It won't have a effect of everything all at once. In terms of like taking away someone's job or something like that.
Yeah, and I've seen that. That's an interesting point. I'm going to do one last call for questions for Cherian, and in the meantime, I'm going to just share a thought for your feedback, Cherian, which is I've seen some people get really excited about having like donor-facing chatbots.
Yeah,
and I think that could be a good thing. I also think that I have a better gut feeling for AI uses that enhance the human element versus kind of, now we don't have to talk to you type of approach. Have you seen kind of different schools of thought in the use of AI? Or is there a good way to use AI versus, or that a way that you find is more conducive to, I don't know, good things in the world?
Yeah, so one of my coaches, Rory Vaden, is famous for using this line that I think a lot of consultants in the space talk about, which is that there's one way of doing things, and that way is the right way and the only way. And what Rory says is that we should stop being should heads. The idea that I would know what's right for you personally, not you, but anyone here, for you as a person, and what tool would be best for you is sort of absurd. I don't know you. I don't know what brings you joy, what thrills you about your work, but also for each different organization. So what I would say is, there are, for example, when it comes to the human element, there are absolutely humanizing components that we should be first and foremost in our minds, both on the internal and external side. Is this good for internal relationships and my personal mental health and wellness? But then also, is this good for relationship building with donors? The thing that I want to push back on, though, is you mentioned like a chatbot and how we might want to have a more human element. What I would say is, a lot of organizations that have earned income, where they're selling tickets or something like that, it's not a great human experience, right? I'm sitting on my phone and going through menus to change my tickets or to buy tickets or something like that. Or there's such a vast amount of information that the person on that phone needs to sift through in order to answer that question. So as James is saying in the chat, it's actually really super easy today to build an internal AI chatbot. You can ask GPT-4 how to build the chatbot, but you just load up your documents, and now external users, think about like medical organizations, scientific organizations, where you want to, it can't be invented, but you want it to query a specific set of data, a specific set of information, and be able to come up with the preferred right answer and identify the source citation. Let me go a step further. Blackbaud's not a nonprofit, but Tessitura, the arts CRM, is a nonprofit. If you wanted to ask a question of Blackbaud or Salesforce, what do? You type it into a search bar and then sift through these results. If you had a chatbot on the knowledge base of Blackbaud and said, how do I enter a soft gift, a soft credit, right? And it just said, here's exactly how to do that. That's a huge amount of time that's saved, right? So for each organization, the type of nonprofit that you are, how you interact with the external public, and then what is appropriate on the internal side will make a tremendous amount of difference. I can tell you that for our organization, for Merit America, we're exploring AI tools to help our learners go through the process of resume building and applying for jobs, because there are so many jobs out there that could be a good fit. And so there are grants out there for this particular type of use case. And I would imagine that capacity building grants could be used for those types of things in the future. Ironically, the AI might be able to help you write the grant for the purposes of building the AI tool. But I think it's a super exciting time that will actually ease a lot of burdens, both internally and externally.
Well, that's amazing. Well, we're going to leave the conversation today with a question from Safe and Sound. You mentioned the list of tools. I imagine many folks are eager to learn more from you and with you. How can they connect with you? And maybe if you offer this list, get access to it.
You bet. I will throw this in the chat. I just wrote a list of all of the AI tools that I've, or not all of them, obviously, like thousands of them come up all the time. But let me share this in the chat. These are ones that I have. Where do I put this?
You have to go into LinkedIn so folks can get it, or I can do that for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I made a list of tools, and then I italicized the ones that I personally use, like Fireflies and Descript and Accio that I showed you all. But I just keep adding to that list. So as you come up with different tools that you run into, please, 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 please comment or send me a LinkedIn message or a Twitter message or something like that, so we can add that and make those tools accessible to the community, because I just think it's such a cool opportunity to kind of marry up where people's needs are and what stresses them out with what tools are out there and what can help make a difference.
Lovely. So we'll post a link to this recording along with Cherian's resource up there in the Ask, a small Q&A site that we have that's part of our community. And this has been absolutely great. Mind-blowing is a word that gets used a lot in this conversation, but it truly, at least mind-expanding. I'll have to ask ChatGPT for some synonyms. But thanks a lot, Cherian. We hope your back feels better.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you
really
so much.
grateful. Bye, everybody.
Bye.